Hello all, welcome to History with R&R Live, and you can tell I have a migraine because I didn't even tweet this out, so I hope we have a couple of people in chat. Yay! Hey Jeff, how are you doing?
Well, I think I'm doing a little bit better than you. I just barely got this tweeted out a few minutes ago, so we'll see.
All right, awesome, because I didn't.
Audience we get.
I didn't even think about it. My brain is gone. All right.
Well, we're at a different time today, and I just blew the advertising, so.
Yeah, there we go. All right, welcome, old media guy, Dadman Walking 55, Thomas Potts, Mrs. Canuck, of course. Welcome, my love. I hope your work isn't driving you too crazy. And we have John DeMarco, and I think that's everyone. All right, so today we have two people that know what they're talking about, so that's a rarity on this channel. And with that, I'll say welcome, old media guy and Dr. Alex.
Hello. Hello, thank
welcome,
you.
Welcome, gentlemen.
That's false advertising. We do not know what we're talking about.
When it comes to history, the two people know what they're talking about. Could you bring them on soon? Because
yeah,
just
exactly.
Dr. Alex and I right now.
You remind me how we got sidetracked.
All right, how's this? Who sound like they know what they're talking about?
All right, today we're going to do partial differential equations, everybody. Do you have your pencil and paper ready?
Oh, and I thought my head hurt before this started. Me and math have an understanding. It stays away from me, and I'll stay away from it.
It's probably been about, 30 years since I've done math like that. Maybe 25.
All right. So, gentlemen, I'll let you introduce your topic, and we'll go from there.
Dr. Alex.
I was waiting for that.
Fine. Okay. So what we didn't get to talk about last time because we got sidetracked into authorities in history and how we are not good examples of that. We are not authorities in history. But anyway, what we're really going to talk about was how various societies throughout history seem to have stopped their scientific development through authority being through authority, whatever that authority may take, saying we know it all and saying now we must stop and don't build upon the knowledge we have. So the examples that we always have thrown out have been the Catholic Church deciding, right, that's it. We know everything we know. We don't need to know any more of your Galilean stuff. Go back to bed, Galileo. And for the Chinese seem to have stopped their exploration of the world in 1421, if it's to be believed, when they thought, okay, we know our borders now, we know how far we're going, we're not going any further. And then there's Islam as well. It's had a similar edict saying, right, we know we need to know about science, we know we need to know about maths, this is it, stop here, we know all the knowledge there is to know. And in all three cases, this seemed to have torpedoed the development and progress in those societies and shifted, often in other cases, power elsewhere. Discuss.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. So basically, all the times that humankind shot themselves in the foot, and somebody. But now, would it be that they shot themselves in the foot, or somebody got real comfortable being in power and didn't want anything to change that could affect that power?
That's basically it. Yeah. I can think of, there's somebody in charge saying, what we know is sufficient. And if you go beyond the bounds we have set, then you are, quote unquote, sinning. And I say, quote unquote, because it can be an atheist who says this. And I can think of one particular example of a particular new atheist who's written a lot of work and whose arguments for Darwinism as it was understood in the 19th century are, we should take those arguments as sufficient, and anyone who says anything different is a creationist. And he's slandered people by saying that. But in his mind, that's how far we should go and never any farther.
That's like saying, well, they had it right in the 50s, in the 60s, and the 70s when they made cars. All these new cars are an abomination. Oh, wait, that's me. Never mind. Move on.
So who's your extremist Darwinist then that you're thinking of?
Oh, do I have to mention a name?
What?
Do I dare? I don't even know if I dare on this stream. So it just so happens that Richard Dawkins debated David Berlinski several times on the topic of Darwinism. And
Right.
Berlinski is not a creationist. He's not even a theist. If you ask him, are you an atheist or agnostic or what, he'll say, I'm just not going to answer that question because I still don't know how to formulate an answer. Okay, that's honest. And his point is not that evolution is wrong. His point is there are flaws in the theory as it is expounded, at least by people like Dawkins, who are Darwin fanboys. And I don't mean fanboys in a derogatory sense.
Mm-hmm.
But Dawkins likes to promote the idea that you either follow Darwin or you are a threat to society. And so what Berlinski has done in multiple talks on YouTube or in debates and in several books is that here are the problems with the theory as it is expounded. And the problems are such that the theory, at least when he is done with it, it looks like nonsense. Now, again, this is not the totality of the theory. This is not saying we should get rid of biology departments, universities. It's just that as it is expounded by these true believers, self-appointed true believers, they've created a theory that simply doesn't work. And Berlinski's points, to my knowledge, have never been refuted. Now, science is supposed to be a process where we say, here is my idea. You are allowed to kick the tires. In fact, you're allowed to come up with scenarios in which this theory doesn't work so we can break it, improve it, work on it, and continue it if it merits it. Whereas what Dawkins would propose is we accept his idea of evolution as truth with a capital T, essentially making it into a religion. You believe what Dawkins says about Darwin or else. And that is a cul-de-sac. And all of these instances we're talking about are intellectual cul-de-sacs where you're not allowed to go any further. And then society gets built upon this idea that we can't go any further. And eventually something breaks, because it always does. Give it enough time, a bad idea will break. In fact, good ideas will break too, give it enough time. So it's it's not a particular religion or ideology or country or anything like it. It's just human nature. As soon as someone in power says this far, no further, and there actually is something further beyond the point at which they've said don't go beyond, well, something happens. Usually not good.
I lost Jeff. All right. Well, hopefully Jeff comes back. But so I'll let Dr. Alex respond, and then we'll carry on.
I sense we're going to get pulled into that same authorities in science rabbit hole we got into last time, because I would doubt, I would hope that Dawkins would not be using Darwinism or evolutionary theory as proposed by Darwin in this age, because we have progressed a great deal. I mean, I'm going outside of I'm not an expert in evolutionary theory either, but I am aware that it has developed since the mid to late 1800s. The idea of this linear progress of evolution, for a start, is well out of favor now. I've been watching a lot of PBS Eons recently, and even the concept of speciation is not anywhere near as hard and fast as it used to be, and there's a lot of drift and rejoining of lineages that were not previously really covered very well in the original evolutionary theory, as it was put forward by Darwin. So again, I can't leave this alone. Dawkins has got training in I think it's genetics to a degree, but I'd have to go back and look at this, if you pardon the pun. But his actual chair, and it has been for decades, is the public understanding of science. He is there as a communicator of science ideas to the public. He's not actually a rigorous scientist anymore, if he ever was. His remit is not to do science. It's to, if you like, be your authority figure for the public, which I goes straight to what you're saying. It is a danger when authorities become the leads in what is looked at and accepted. It should be the science, or it should be the investigation that is king, not the king.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
As an authority figure rather than a scientist, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's tempting, if you're at the top of that mountain, what's tempting is to stay there.
Yes, which is the point. And you know, I've kind of looked at this in certain ways, and it's more, and this is the really common layman looking at things shouldn't be looking at, but whatever. I've
Curiosity is a
often
good thing.
laughed when you have science versus religion in some senses. Not because, you know, religion is right or science is right. That's not my point. My point is, in oftentimes, some scientific areas and people can be just as how can I put this, fanatical about,
Dogmatic.
dogmatic as the
Oh, yeah.
religious people can be.
Yep. 'Cause it's
In
human
some
nature.
senses,
Yeah.
right? It's like, well, no, this is it, period. Well, there's been many scientific fact that has been turned into scientific, well, that's what we used to think. You know, like, and it happens all the time. And unfortunately, like, you hear it all the time from scientists themselves. Well, I had this experiment that, you know, might have tested this theory or that believed fact, and it got squashed and fast because I got outcast as a renegade or you know, blah blah blah, and you know, so I got outcast as a scientist because and dog and labeled a quack because I didn't tout the party line, which happens in religion all the time, or in politics, or in you know, it's to me it's you know, the one argument that I can't stand in these circles is, okay, well, if you believe in religion, you are stupid, you're uneducated, and you're stupid. To believe in religion, you are uneducated and stupid. Because right here, we clearly have proven that that's false. Well, no, you haven't, and shut up. You know, so to me, it's all it just drives me crazy. And then religion does the same thing, but that's besides the point. You know, so you get it on both sides of the fence. Where in my in my layman looking at science, nothing should ever be fact, ever, because there's always a chance you could be proven wrong.
That's the whole idea of science.
Yeah. To me, that's the layman's. Like, I looked at science as it's always an ongoing thing. There
Dr.
is
Alex?
no. This is to what we know at this point. Period.
Yeah, that is how science is structured. I was thinking just this morning of how someone might want to attack what I've done, the tiny addition that I've made to our scientific knowledge. But someone might come and say, "You're wrong," and my response would be, "I bloody well hope so, because everything that we've done should be wrong at some point. Otherwise, I finished physics, and I really hope it to hell that the tiny thing I found was not the be all and end all of physics, because that's it. And that was it. My God, that was not impressive. What an anticlimax! Yeah, of course, it's wrong. Everyone in the past is wrong. Einstein will be wrong. We know his theory is not complete. He will be wrong. Newton was wrong. We already know his theory was not complete. He was wrong. Right. Everyone was wrong on the way through. Into greater or lesser degrees. But yeah, I would live in hope of being wrong, because that means we've made progress.
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. But there are some, even within the community, like you said, that are like, well, no, this has been proven, and anybody who tries to disprove this is an idiot. You know, why are you even looking into that? You know, and they're discouraged. Don't look into that. It's been done. What the hell? We already know the answer. Go away.
I wish I could remember her name, but there was a female astronomer decades ago. I can't remember if she won the Nobel for this or not, but then as now, time in the really excellent telescopes is very, very limited. And she knew that all of her male colleagues were studying the insides of galaxies, and she was afraid if she did the same that she would be cut out. She wouldn't get time on the telescope. So she decided to research the edges of galaxies. And since that wasn't the hot topic of the day, they didn't see her as a threat. Well, since she was the only one doing that work, she found out some tremendous facts about galaxies that we did not know before now. And
I
that's
think
a
I know what you're
small
talking about.
example of what we're talking about, which is
It's
not.
galaxy rotation curves.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
That's it.
It's
Damn
not.
it,
You
I
can't,
should know her name because she's brilliant.
Yeah.
And she was, the reason she did it
Okay,
were
right.
fantastic. But yeah, she should have got a Nobel Prize, but I don't know if she did, to be fair. And her name will come back to me. I keep thinking it's Ruth Durer. I don't think it's Ruth Durer. I think that's a different one, but something like that.
Mr. CCDV says, I think, Dr. Alex, you did find the end of physics, so let's ascend to a higher plane of being now. And I completely agree with that. And by the way, Hannibal crossed the Alps with elephants. Thanks, Mr. CCDV.
On skis.
On skis.
No, they had jetpacks, damn it. If we're going to make a fantasy, let's have some fun with this. What is this skis garbage?
Eddie Izzard did a good routine about Hannibal coming over the Alps with the elephants on skis and skiing off the roofs of buildings. It was good. It was fun.
That's not something you see every day, Chauncey. What's that? An elephant
Nope.
waxing his skis.
Yeah.
Vera
Or
Rubin.
being used to wax
What's their name?
skis.
Vera Rubin, thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem.
That's the one.
Yeah, so even she wasn't shut out for her ideas, but she knew that if she competed, she'd be shut out. And that's that's a symptom of this, where you can't think those thoughts because you'll compete with me. Or
Yeah.
you can't think those thoughts because you'll go beyond the boundaries of what we allow, the Overton window. You can't go too far out the Overton window. And the problem is, if you're intelligent and inquiring, which I think all of us are, eventually you're going to find a credible piece of work written by somebody who's studied this problem and is a lot smarter than you and lays out a case for why the Overton window is in the wrong place. And then you're kind of stuck there going, well, what do? I can't exactly go tell my friends that blah, blah, blah is true because I'll sound like a conspiracy theorist. So
Yeah.
what do? Do you sound like that, or do you wait 20 years for the window to shift your direction?
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is that is a wonderful word because it's used to describe anybody that believes outside of the regular. I mean, there are some that are just, please put down the whiskey. But, and that's conspiracy theory because that's what it becomes. Anything outside of the norm becomes a conspiracy theory. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just thinking of climate deniers.
Oh, yes.
That's
Yes,
a big one
conspiracy
right
theory.
now.
Or as we here in Canada say, global warming? When? When it's minus 45 outside. How long do I have to run my car for
Did
this
you
sucker to
know-
heat up?
Did you know that in 1300 and before 1300, there were vineyards in Sweden? Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
had
you-
heard that.
Meaning that the warming of the earth and the cooling of the earth is something that's going to happen beyond and out of our control because it's mainly the sun. So even if
no.
you are,
That's
So
not true.
the whole
We've gone
climate,
through this before, old media guy.
I'll say what?
That's not entirely true, old media. We've gone through this before, and the solar activity doesn't actually link up with the temperature stuff, right? Properly
You mean
at
a
all.
blazing hot ball of fusion pointed directly at us has nothing to do with our temperature?
No, it's
Tell
the thing
that
that's
to
warming us, but the
Mercury.
fluctuations don't match up very well with the actual fluctuations in solar output at all. And I've shown you the graph before.
I
We have
know.
to
I
get
know. I
flip
disagree with
chart
you
out.
slightly, just a slight bit. My point is actually not pro climate denial or anti climate change. It is simply that even the best people who look at this problem will overlook facts. They will overlook the importance of the idea that in 1300 there were vineyards in Sweden and the Thames had never frozen over in modern memory, and so on and so on and so on. that it is possible for things to change without it being a Chicken Little proposition. And so my point is actually not pro climate denial. It's I'm against the elites pushing our governments to say, scare the people half to death about this, and then tell them they got to give up their cars and air conditioning, when we all know there's a certain country west of Taiwan that pollutes a hell of a lot more than any of us.
Well, yeah, there's that. But the other thing too is, I find it interesting. Like, we have the capability to do so much better, but we also, by the same token, hold down that capability in favor of power structure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you trying to get us back on topic again?
Maybe. I mean, I'm just the layman in the room, but maybe.
I'm a little surprised by that, because you are the rambling Canuck.
Yeah. Well, I'm the rambling Canuck with a migraine. So.
This is true. And I got to say, you're doing far better than I would with a migraine.
You're doing excellent. Yeah,
I get used to it. But like, power structure, I think, is the detriment of the human race. But at the same time, and it is the same thing you could say about anything. Power structure it has its great points and its uses. Without it, we're screwed. With it, we're screwed. Because and that's the nicest way to put it. With a power structure, we're screwed. Without a power structure, we're screwed.
Yeah, we need a functioning society in order to make progress. Without that, it's difficult to do science when everyone's throwing rocks at you. It's hard to
do.
Absolutely true.
So
we're actually veering into Jordan Peterson territory, where his first book was about what happens when there's too much order, and the second's about what happens when there's too much chaos. Or I might have mixed those two up. But it's true. You need something in the middle. So there's no order. We are back to sticks and stones. Too much order, and we've got George Orwell. Don't need either.
Yes, and I wonder where we're going right now.
Well, right now we're seeing dissent squashed more and more often. So that suggests we're heading back to a society where we do what the elites say. We think the thoughts the elites allow, or else you're criminal. And we know from modern history how long that can last, i.e. the Gulag system in the Soviet Union lasted 70 years.
Yes. Although that's usually overlooked.
Yes, it's an inconvenient truth.
Well, it's not only that, but it's much more easier to blame people who lost that war.
Well, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the elites of that society, of the Soviet society. Those are the ones I blame.
Yes.
The average Russian or the average Georgian or whoever. No, it's just, there's no point blaming them.
No, the other thing too, I mean, you look at it like, and we've been doing it for years, is the fact that we look to one person who, well, they're the lead person. We find it all over the place, medical field, especially. I find it a lot. I unfortunately always find lucky me, the leading back specialist in Manitoba. Well, once he says something, all of the other back specialists, the minute they found out that XYZ has commented on such a case, will immediately fall in line. Right? If the person has a title in their name, they're immediately put on this pedestal. Whether they belong there or not is another story. But we do that throughout everything we do, through history, through like, there are many people right now that would look at me and say that I don't deserve to have a history channel because I do not have a master's in history. Which to
But
them. I
you're
say,
honest about the fact you don't have it. See, that's
Exactly.
so
That's the thing that makes it okay, because we
It-
know we all are self-confessed ignoramuses when it comes to history.
yeah,
History belongs to everyone, as does science.
Exactly, as does science. There are many people out there with interesting programs on science, and that's fine. You can be a keen amateur, as long as you don't put yourself out there as an expert, as being an expert at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah. I am a jack of all trades and master of none, um, and quite happy that way. You know,
Are we
I was
to
just
tell
thinking that this morning that we trust the PhDs implicitly, and I mean no offense, Dr. Alex, for this, but we have to understand that some PhDs started school in kindergarten at the age of 5 and didn't end school till they got their PhD. And there's a sacrifice that has to be made to do that. And one of the sacrifices involved is you don't get to live the normal life that other people do. You spend most of your time with your head down doing this one thing really well. And what I saw at a certain university I attended was once you had PhD and tenure, the faculty in question felt that they had the right to expound on any topic and be taken as seriously as if they were talking about whatever it was they got their PhD in. I called it PhD and tenure disease. And that's part of it. I am seeing myself as bigger than I am. And it doesn't matter where you are. You shouldn't be doing that. It's not going to work for anybody, least of all you. So if you're honest and say, I have a PhD in whatever, but I don't understand this other topic, that's much healthier than to say, well, I have a PhD in tenure and I know all, I see all. You should agree with me about everything. And what good is that going to do anybody?
No
really not the
academic worth
student.
of salt should
Just-
profess to any expertise outside their area of expertise, which is itself, by definition, if they've done a PhD, incredibly narrow, even within the field. Yeah, I'm a physicist technically, but I'm terrible at most of physics. I know a little tiny section in slightly more detail than some people in the field. That's it. And so, I mean, talk to me about quantum field theory or quantum electrodynamics or anything quantum, and I'm going, oh my God, please no, I don't know anything about this. It's just not, yeah. And I wouldn't talk with as I get further from the tiny bit of dark energy, dark matter stuff that I did, in perturbation theory is what I really did. But as soon as I move out of that, I get very, very unsure. And that's how everyone should be. As soon as they move away from the thing that they are meant to be an expert in, they should be incredibly worried or cagey about the things they say and be upfront at their uncertainty.
Yes. Having a little bit of humility goes a long way.
yes.
Otherwise,
little
you just
bit of-
sound pompous.
Well, and the other problem is the I think some of the hardest words in the English language is I don't know.
Yep.
Right? It's like, well, no, I have to know. Even if you're talking about in that field. I've watched things where people are talking about stuff that, and you can always tell where they go off script. Because there's a lot of well, you see, involved in the answer, and it's because once you reach a certain plateau, and you see it everywhere, of you're expected to know everything. Like as a parent, you can bring it down to that low level of as a parent. When your child asks you something, you don't want to say, I don't know, because in the child's eyes, you know everything. You are dad or you are mom. You should know the answer to my question. So we make a lot of shit up.
No, you're absolutely right. You're spot on. I don't know is the most powerful thing. It's certainly something I very quickly lost any shame over. I'm not saying it very quickly got me to where I am today, but it certainly stopped me from stagnating. saying I don't know. I'm very happy. So I say that even when I'm asked things about things I'm supposed to know about, because I'll say I don't know first off because my brain hasn't managed to process what they were saying. It gives me time to think as well, and then eventually I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
but maybe, and then I might augment that I don't know with something. But it's a hell of a lot safer and a place to start. One, for your own progress, and two, so you don't look like a twit because you said something with a massive amount of authority behind you and you've actually been wrong.
Yes.
I work in the information department at a library. When people come in to ask a question, lots of times I don't know the answer. I'll say, well, I don't know, but let's find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's human nature to, well, I profess to study the Titanic. I must know every answer. Well, what was Bulkhead 3? And it's like, well, it's just same as Bulkhead 6. And then you go back and look at the schematics. But
I got out of Doctor Who fandom in the late 90s because of that attitude, that I was encountering so many people that were acting like they were God's gift to the history of Doctor Who, and suddenly I just kind of snapped and said, it's a damn TV show, get a life.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure
As much as I like it, it's like, you know what, this is not my religion. Episode 3 of the Happiness Patrol is not part of my gospel. I'm just going to put it down and walk away because I can't handle this.
When I was writing this stuff the first time, I was the one who knew nothing about the history. I mean, I'd watched it on TV. That was it. What I watched on TV was my entire knowledge of it. Still loved it. Still did stuff with it. Still wrote stuff for it. But I could not be asked to be one of these guys who had got every single book, every single audio adventure, had watched everything they'd ever been, any interview that had been said to anyone working in the field. It's like, no. I love watching it on TV. That's what I'm going to base my stuff on. Being bogged down in the minutiae is, not healthy in this artistic endeavor, I think.
Yes, because if you grow up loving good TV and good movies, and you kind of fix on one thing, Star Trek, Doctor Who, it doesn't matter, you will eventually come to a point where someone says you got to read such and such, which is way outside of your interest zone, and you read it and you suddenly go, oh my gosh, there was this whole other set of stories that I knew nothing about because my favorite TV show of choice simply could not tell those stories. It wasn't set up to tell them. Nothing wrong with either set of stories, but there's more out there than what you fell in love with. And it's healthy at that point to say, I need to take a short break, a quick break from what I've been used to and explore a little bit and see what else is out there.
yeah. But and not only that, but you look at it from the point of view of the other thing I've always said, and I've always thought about, it is great to have people who study things and really dive into a topic, whether it be in science, whether it be in history, whether it be in math, whatever the case may be. However, sometimes it is good to have somebody who hasn't looked at all that stuff, because you get in this tunnel vision and you miss stuff because you're tunnelized on one certain outcome. You are looking to be able to answer said question, and the rest of it, I don't care. I'm focused on this. And then somebody else comes along and goes, yeah, that's nice, but do you see this over here? And it's like, wait a minute, what? And then that could answer what this person is trying to answer, but they're too busy stuck in their tunnel.
Yep.
Yep,
So what
I
we're
totally
talking
agree.
about really is people who are not only stuck on their tunnel, but they're at the top of their mountain
Yeah.
of influence and trying to make everyone live in their tunnel under pain of some sort of punishment, excommunication from society, or just from the right people, or actual imprisonment in extreme cases.
Yes.
So
Or
yes,
do
that
you
tunnel
want
vision
funding?
codified into law is what we are standing against.
Yeah. Or do you want funding?
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
And we do it all the time. And the other thing we like to do is we like to give people titles, and once they have that title, they're granted XYZ of, I guess, allowance to be stupid. Like, like, wow, he must know what he's talking about because he is blah, blah. And you were pointing it out earlier. Somebody has a PhD in one field and is talking on another field. And immediately, as a civilization, we are, well, they have a PhD. They must know what they're talking about. Well, yeah, they have a PhD in, astrophysics. They don't have a PhD on, the early Samaritans. So, like,
Yes.
very different, very different conversation here, folks. But we assume, as especially layman individuals, assume that title means knowledge, so they must know. Like if someone might say water is wet. Well, maybe. And then somebody with PhD says water is wet. Oh, yes. Well, water must be wet. Yes.
They mistake
it is.
Yeah, they
Go
mistake
ahead.
the credentials. The credential shows so and so has knowledge of this particular type, but they confuse that credential for evidence of wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom, two different things.
To flip a balance into this and show that it, even within the elite, if you like, within the society of physicists, let's put it that way, you've reminded me of certain running jokes that happen in the field, which is that the older professors, the emeritus professors, the ones who've gone through the system and they've had their tenure and they're essentially semi-retired, but they can do whatever the hell they like, or the Nobel Prize winning bigwigs. The running joke in the field is that they go off and do something outside of their main field. For example, Gerhard Tuft is a famous quantum mechanics and particle physicist. He's now looking at cosmology, my field, and astrophysics. And everyone within the field just sort of looks at each other and nods and winks and thinks, yeah. Emeritus professor. Oh, it's the old alumni that the old stars are now busy playing outside their normal field. The thing is, we do know that that's what they're doing, and very often they will be not really making great progress within this field that they've decided to leap into. So the phenomenon you're describing happens in physics all the time, and is also known about. And there's that level of skepticism within the field when old blah blah goes off and does something weird. Everyone like nod and smile, but they also won't necessarily send off their PhD students to go and research what he's researching, just because he's onto something here. Nah. Let him do it in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice if you can find a hobby, but whether you've got the title or not, you ought to admit, I'm just doing this as a hobby.
Yeah. Happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's an emeritus professor in the department I was in when I was doing the PhD, and he's well into the paranormal. And everyone knows he's well into the paranormal. And great, maybe what he's doing, the paranormal stuff, is really interesting and fun. But I wouldn't say he was an expert in paranormal. He is a... What's his name? Technically, he's a cosmologist as well. Yeah, of course he is. He's a cosmologist, but slightly different type of cosmologist. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't have gone for him looking for expert advice on ghosts. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. He's not going to tell you how to make a ghost catcher.
That's what I really want.
Go to the ghost
proton pack.
Yeah. He look at you and go, the what, the who? So now I'll pose the question: if we lived in a perfect world, which we don't, and everybody stop laughing, what do you think the balance should be?
Balance for power.
Well, we look at chaos versus power struggle versus power structure, right? So if you go too far to power structure, we're screwed. If you go too far to chaos, we're screwed. What do you think the balance should be in a perfect?
I think you're asking us to solve life. About okay.
Well, yeah,
You've
it's
got a few
nothing
minutes.
major.
Wow.
You've got a PhD. Come on.
Yeah, jeez.
Yes,
The
but is it
lightweight
specialized
question.
in this field?
Life is
Yes.
outside my expertise.
It's a lightweight question.
I've
Come on.
played the board game. We should be able to do this, right?
Does it count if you lost the board game?
So if they answer this, what's the point after they answer? What's the point of
Just-
anything?
Do we get a prize?
Mm.
If we
Yeah,
solve
Jeff
the problem
will
of life,
something.
we get a mug or something.
Jeff will come up with something.
Yeah, we'll send you an R&R mug or something.
Sweet.
As long as it works. And it's instituted. But no, because for me, I think you need, because it's all about the balance in grand scheme of things. Any plan will work if it's balanced properly. Like
I have an answer.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Good answer.
Yeah, I have no clue. Yeah,
Now let's find out.
yeah.
Okay.
Although I don't know if the human race can take too many more trials. We've had too many errors.
History repeats,
Yes.
as we
See,
talked
this
about
is-
earlier.
This is the intersection of where a conversation about what humans do suddenly has to turn into something beyond what humans can prove, i.e., you have to turn to some sort of religion or philosophy to get these answers. And then it turns into a fight over which one, which I'm anxious to avoid.
Mm.
Wait, I can do this way.
Yeah, lots of mugs on screen right now. More than just us.
Look at them mugs. You see them mugs?
But yeah, so sorry, I distracted
wonder-
everybody from the great conversation.
If there's any sort of answer, it might simply be the worst and most dissatisfying type of answer, which is the negatives of what it shouldn't be. So
Yeah.
it shouldn't be either of the extremes, should it? It shouldn't be totalitarian authoritarianism. It shouldn't be total and absolute anarchy and chaos. So those are the
Yeah.
two things we know we don't want.
Yeah,
So whatever the answer is, it's between those two things.
yeah, it's
Unless
between
there's
those 2
something
points
outside
of
that box. So-
yeah.
At what
Um,
point do you tell someone to shut up is a very good question to ask to help solve this problem. For example, if we are trying to have a conversation about genuine hard science with numbers and everything, I would tell the flat earther to sit down and shut up. I would have to. If we're just having a conversation and a flat earth says, I think the earth is flat, I would not say shut up. But if we're trying to talk about the nitty gritty details of what we can prove with math and science and observation, et cetera, I don't want to hear it. I don't want
Yeah.
to hear something that is demonstrably false. And that's the hard part, because someone has to stand up and say, I'm the authority. You don't get to speak now. As soon as
Yeah.
you've done that, you set yourself up for someone with tunnel vision to say, you cannot discuss certain topics, or you have to believe what I say, and so on.
Yes. And I've always looked at it like we're in everything we do in a certain degree, we succeed to a point, and then as Dr. Alex put, we shoot ourselves in the foot because we try to push it too far. I mean, think about when you were young and your mom said be in at 5. What's your first instinct? To push to stay out till 6.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
Pushing
Well,
limits.
can't I just stay till 6? It's only an hour more, right? So you're always tempted to push. Problem is we end up pushing too far, and then darn it, everything goes to hell.
Let's not forget the actual definition of what a sin is according to the Christian religion. It is to miss the mark as if you are aiming for something with your bow and arrow and you miss the center.
Yeah.
So whether you believe in the Christian religion or not, I think that works perfectly well as a metaphor, that we constantly aim for something, perfection, which we always miss.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think
Not
we're
that-
capable of it, to be honest.
We're not capable, but it's best when we try to aim for it, but with the understanding we're going to screw it up.
Yeah.
So
With
there's
the
no
understanding that,
Yeah.
we're not marksmen. We're not going to hit, and even a marksman never hits bullseye every time.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing, I think, once you get to a certain plateau to accept. Because once you're, like we see it in every aspect. I mean, you can go to a doctor, like a surgeon, who has performed 100 heart surgeries, and then there's the one that gets away on him. He's done it 100 times, and it's all gone smooth. And then that 101 time, it doesn't. Something happens.
We can never completely manage the chaos.
Right?
Yeah.
And for some people, that's a breaking point. Well, no, I'm the best heart surgeon there is in Canada or in the United States or in the world. That's the one I love. I am the best at in the world. I love that because it makes me laugh hysterically. Just really, what competition did we miss on TV that we didn't get? And nobody's got this rights to this shite yet. What the hell? We're not monetizing this. Somebody's missing out. But I find it odd because once somebody gets to that level, they can't make a mistake.
Yep.
Right? It couldn't be something they did. It had to be this outside force that messed everything up, because it couldn't have been something I did. And it's the same thing in research. Well, no, I've researched this and this is how it is. Well, yeah, but you missed this. I would never miss a thing. Right? Because you're challenging that person's credibility at that point. And instead of it being a friendly inquiry, sometimes what it becomes is you're challenging the worst word in the English language, pride.
This conversation, which is fantastic, just continually reminds me of Plato. Socrates as the mouthpiece, but it's Plato's writing where knowing that you do not know is the beginning of wisdom. The extent, knowing those boundaries of your knowledge, and it being, your knowledge is a very small thing, and everything beyond it is just overwhelmingly, if not infinitely large by comparison. That is the beginning of wisdom, knowing that you do not know everything. Which, bizarrely, yes, the people who are these authority figures often forget that, because they've got a little knowledge in a little area and suddenly think it's everything, which it is so far from, and should be very obvious to them if they thought about it for more than 2 seconds. It is so far from everything, it's ridiculously small. So yeah, if we could just keep that basic Plato in mind, we'd be that put us in a better place. Never mind about the extremes of chaos and order. Just remember that one tiny bit of Plato. Know that you do not know everything.
Yeah.
By a long way, by a massive order. And that goes
by a long shot, bucko. Yeah. And I've talked more than I thought I would today, so I'll let Dr. Alex, the old media guy, talk here, because we brought him on and then I went rambling here, so I'll let you guys talk.
That is in your nature.
We were looking forward to it.
I just
Hey,
talked.
Dr. Alex, what did you have to say that was pithy, witty, and insightful?
I just said something. It's not my turn now.
Yes,
the
the
buck,
old
are you?
family tradition of passing the buck.
There you go.
I have to agree with what Dr. Alex said, and I was thinking about the Judaic tradition, which says the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord, not be afraid of God because he's going to hit you with a hammer, but because everything he says is right and everything you say probably isn't.
Yeah.
And what happens next, or can happen next, is somebody says, yes, that's right. God is right. And I shall be his mouthpiece.
Oh, yes.
And
This
not
is
only
a
his mouthpiece,
lovely.
his henchman to beat you up. So you believe whatever, how you interpreted what God said, you're going to make other people do it because you're right. And that is, I think, it's a temptation that's always there. And it's that's the other thing.
Well,
You
we
can
see it
actually turn
today.
towards a path of not being a know-it-all and become a know-it-all anyway.
Yes.
It reminds me of if you meet Buddha on the world and on the road, beat him up. And that was Buddha himself who said that, apparently.
Yeah.
Because it's not me. It isn't me.
Yeah. Yeah. But my other favorite part is, like, if you look at it, like, and it's not only in religion, it's in every aspect. I mean, what's going on today, I mean, I better not go too far into that statement or YouTube will get mad at me. But I mean, you look at what's going on now, and it's like, well, okay, we've proven this to be false. No, 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 no. These people say that it's right, so you're wrong. And it's like, well, no, what the hell? That hurts my head. But and we even find it in, like, history, the part we forget, because if you talk history with anybody, what you get is, well, it says in this book that blah de blah de blah de blah. And my favorite quote to that is, who wrote the book? Because what everyone forgets is history is not written by the loser.
Yep.
History is not written by the person they hated, such as Nero. Do we know that Nero was that bat crazy? We have evidence to suggest that he was, but we don't know it for fact. Unless you've got a time machine and you went back a couple of days ago and forgot to tell me. Right? Because everything we know on Nero was written by the people who hated his guts. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Richard III is another good example of that.
Yes, if Blackadder has taught us anything, the first series, then yeah, definitely that.
I wasn't thinking of Blackadder, but that's absolutely right.
And we forget that yes, that book may say that, Nero was as crazy as a loon, but you need the context of, okay, well, who wrote that book?
Yeah.
What was the motivations of said book or theory or what have you? What is the motivation? Well, the motivation is, well, we hated his guts. So we're going to paint him in the light that we're going to paint him in, and this is going to become the accepted truth.
Or for thousands of years, literally, school kids were taught that Caesar was a great man because of his military exploits. And now that I've reached the age I have, my first question is, do we have anything written by the people whose land he raised, whose families that he killed members of? Do we have any record of them saying whether he was a great man or not? Because I doubt it.
No, I highly doubt it. His soldiers will tell you that he was a great man.
The soldiers who got the war booty will say that.
Yes, absolutely. Now, however, the Senate may have other ideas. Certain members of the Senate may have other ideas of Mr. Caesar. But again, it boils down to, okay, this is interesting. This book is interesting. But who was it written? Who wrote it? And what was the motivations of them writing it? Because there is always an answer to those two questions.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, a lot of people like to say, oh, there's no motivation. This is just history. To which I laugh hysterically. Because in every aspect, I mean, let's look at, and this one I always get in trouble for, but whatever. Won't be the first time, won't be the last, and sorry,
You in
Archer
trouble?
Colin.
Never.
So let's look at the Battle of London, Battle of Britain. Okay. If you write it from the aspect of the British side, it is, oh, the poor British, how they had to suffer these monsters bombing London. And then if you look at it from the other side, which is, well, if it hadn't been for the fact that the bombs were landing on London, they would have landed on airfields, and quite frankly, London may not have been able to keep, the RAF may not have been able to keep air superiority if the bombing had continued on the airfields. But if you look at it from that aspect in certain circles, you are, how dare you say that? Forgetting Dresden, which is where the British and the Americans firebombed a city to the point of not existing anymore.
Now this is you're way more of the history expert than me. So did Dresden? Now I've got a vague thing in the back of my head that makes me think Dresden prompted the Germans to then target the cities. Is that right?
No.
Good. This is why
What
I have to ask.
prompted this? Okay, so what ended up happening was a German bomber was going to crash land, and it dumped its bombs so that when it landed, it didn't have a full bomb load.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he dumped his bomb load a little too close to London. Now, nobody died during this attack. It did damage a few buildings, but nobody died. This gave Churchill the ammunition he needed to bomb Berlin. Churchill bombed Berlin. When Churchill bombed Berlin, of course, pride was called into question. Remember that old edict, pride, the worst word in English language. Therefore, the Germans, well, for every bomb that's dropped on Berlin, we will drop 70,000 on London, right? So that's how that whole thing started. But if the
was it a deliberate strategy to try and prompt them into wasting their resources on bombing London?
Yeah. Actually, at the time, in some circles, it was every bomb that lands on London is one less that our boys have to deal with.
Yeah. Now that I can definitely believe, and it's no surprise to me to learn that Churchill would have done that, because he was often noted for doing things that would be suspect morally, but would be necessary.
He would never do anything suspect, like lie to the United States president. Never. About the Germans going to invade from Mexico. Come on, he would never do that.
He set up the SOE, didn't he?
Yes, the Special Operations Executive. So again, that is just one topic, and it can be written two different ways. But one is accepted, one is not. If you hold the other, in some circles, you are, how dare you? Do you understand the suffering that the British people went through? Because that's what you've read in your books, right? In your elementary school and high school, and when you read of the Battle of Britain, you read that the poor Londoners, they never did anything to warrant such barbarism, so we had to retaliate. Well, technically, you bombed Berlin first, but little
Well,
tidbit of
let's not
information
speak of
is
that.
left out of that conversation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like how the Indian Wars are described, or at least were described in most American textbooks until recently. If the U.S. cavalry won a battle, they won a battle. If the Native Americans won a battle, it was a massacre.
Yeah.
Now, there were reasons to use the verb massacre because the Native American tribes did not follow any rules of warfare that were recognized by Europeans or Americans. However, that said, whenever the Indians won, that was bad. We have to use language to show that was bad. When the cavalry won, we have to show language to show that was good. And
Well,
the
of
older you
course.
get, the more you start to say, you know what? How about y'all just avoid a war? I mean, that's a crazy idea here, but how about you just not kill each other?
Just
Americans have to be
defend
put in a
history-
good light
Sorry.
in that. I'm sorry, Dr. Alex.
I was going to say, to defend history teaching, by the time I was at school, and that was a long time ago, let's put that right out there, being taught history in school up to GCSE, that's up to 16, they were pretty open about the crappy things that the British had done in various different places. You know, it wasn't secret in our history textbooks by any stretch. What did we do? One of the topics, Castles was awesome, but not particularly ethically complicated. But we did the Irish problem was one of the history topics that we did. So, you know, that was something really relevant, and it wasn't taught as like the British are, yay, the British are great. No, or the people in Ireland fighting against the British, they're the baddies. No. It was for kids book, kids textbook. It was quite nuanced and went into the historical problems and discussed it as a complex ongoing problem, because of course at that time it was a complex ongoing problem. So history teaching can be done well and has been done well.
Yes, it
But
can.
Absolutely.
that was getting on for 30 to 40 years ago. I'm wondering how it's being done now. I'm not a history teacher.
Now I think the pendulum has swung the other way. So when I was at school, cavalry good, natives bad. Now it's natives good, cavalry bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not nuanced on either set. Oh, either
No.
way.
No, either way, no. And like there are some things I could get into that would get me canceled real quick up here, but anyway,
That's a sacrifice we're willing to have you make.
yeah, I know. Oh,
I'd be
don't
out of a
worry, I'll
job.
do it eventually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll
I
do
take it back.
eventually. But like there are so many interesting tidbits. It's like one of my friends, I had to laugh because I won't mention the religion, but they are very, very high in they're very staunch in their religion. Very, 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 very so. And unfortunately for them, I was in the room. The head of their church is Queen Elizabeth II at this present moment. They hate her with a passion of the seven sons. And I'm like, wait, hold. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're this, right? And they went, yeah. I said, okay. But you hate Elizabeth. And they're like, yeah. Said, that would be like a Catholic hating the Pope. And they were, what are you talking about? I says, look who's the head of your church. And they're like, well, it's so-and-so. I said, not in this jurisdiction. Look at who's your equivalent to the Pope? And they came back later and they went, oh, it's Queen Elizabeth. I didn't know that. Well, shut up then. I was like, what the hell? So little things like that just annoy me.
There are Catholics who do hate the Pope.
Yeah.
They would also know he's the head of their religion as well.
Yeah, it helps. And the other one, like my favorite, when my big mouth got me in trouble. I'm going with my because at one point in my life I was a Cub Scout leader because I had gone through scouting and then I no longer found myself employed and I needed to burn some time because I was on retirement early and you get depressed after that, so you need something to fill your time. So I went, okay, I'm going to go back into scouting. So I went back into scouting and we were doing a tour of the legislative building here in Manitoba. And we're going through the tour, and I've got the group of kids, and this nice lady is going through and talking to the kids about every room in the ledge. And we get to the royal room, where the royal chair is. That ideally, the only people that are allowed to park their butt there must have a tie to the royal family, and their names are put on the chair every time they sit on the thing. And yeah, it's a big hook to do. Anyway. So we're sitting in this room. We're as much in this room as we're allowed. The ropes are and stuff. And she's going on about how the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, Prince William, has been here twice. And of course, my mouth talked before I thought this out. And I put up my hand, and she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Did Charles die?" And she goes, "No." "Oh. Did Elizabeth die?" "No." "Oh. So how in the world is William the Prince of Wales?" Because last I checked, that's Charles. Also, Prince William hasn't made it to Winnipeg yet. Charles has been here twice, though. She didn't like me very much for the rest of the tour.
Obligatory goon show joke here. Your rightful place is on the throne. I know, but it's locked.
You know, but it was just, yeah, it was kind of funny. I was in the doghouse for the rest of that tour.
I know what you mean. I was getting a tour of historic Norwegian farmhouses in southwestern Wisconsin. And I was being led around by a volunteer who was very proud of her Norwegian heritage. And she was mentioning all the great things the Norwegians did. And I just slipped in, and the Vikings, of course. And she just stopped cold for about 3 seconds.
Yes. You know,
Yeah.
well, maybe. Could have happened. But yeah, so we've kept these fine gentlemen for over an hour, so I'm gonna let them plug away, and then we'll wrap this sucker up. So, Dr. Alex, you can go first.
Oh God, it's plugging time. I just
Dr. Alex, don't you have some books you've written?
Yeah.
I have this massive pile of things next to me here. Yeah. Give me a second. So yes,
make his square bigger, this rectangle bigger.
Yep, no problem. We'll really put him on the spot now.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So as some of you know, I'm in the middle of producing a Doctor series, for the want of a better description, Doctor Who series, to replace or augment. No, replace would be better. The BBC's current turgid output, which is just finished. Of course, they've done their huge 6-episode season. My season, of course, which is going out in lockstep, has only got less than halfway there because I'm also 6 eps in. We missed this Saturday because we're just a little bit behind with filming for unfortunate reasons that I don't want to go into right now, but we're a bit behind with our schedule. We hopefully will have the next one out this Saturday coming, which is episode 7. So by that point, we'll be ahead of the BBC. And all that I'm talking about is The Doctor season 13, which is, as you can tell, already out in book form on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and this one is hardback. You could go out and buy them if you like, or you could wait for the remaining wait, I can do maths. The remaining 7 episodes to come out on YouTube and see the whole thing for free, read by myself, my amazing co-star and editor Eon, and occasional guest stars as well. Doomcock, Mindless Entertainment, Jesse Marstone, Jeff Hicks from Worldcast Bullshitters. We've had 3 guest stars so far. I don't think I've got any more guest stars lined up, but there's plenty of characters to be entertained by in this version of the Doctor, who, as you can probably tell, is basically the Capaldi Doctor continued. Although technically he has regenerated into himself. And if you want to know how that happened, go and check out The Doctor Season 12, which is also available on Amazon and available on YouTube as a complete series for free, because that will tell you exactly how we ended up with the Capaldi-esque 12th/13th Doctor still ongoing. And the entire Chinball Jodie Whittaker fiasco is not sidestepped. It is there, included in episode 1 of season 12. Goes up on the screen again, and is elegantly written into a convenient little storage locker of canon. Yeah, and there's the third book. I suppose, and all the stuff I wrote before is on Amazon, and part of it read as well on YouTube. Regenerations Past is all the stuff I did before for Big Finish and other even earlier works. In fact, it goes back to my earliest Doctor Who work that I did while I was, I don't know, just fell out of university, and it was in a fanzine called The Silver Carrier, which I only discovered about 2 months ago where the Silver Carrier came from as a Doctor Who reference. And that, I think, is all I could possibly plug legitimately.
All right. So now we go to Old Media Guy to top that.
I can't do that.
Good luck.
It's not possible. I have to recommend Dr. Alex's work. I've gotten through a little bit of season 13. I've gotten through all of season 12, and I really enjoyed them. And there was a scene early on in season 12 where the new Capaldi doctor stands by the grave of Sarah Jane Smith and says a few words. And I thought that was very touching. It made me wonder what happened. What was her actual last adventure? And the next thing I knew, I had an idea. And so I wrote it as a kind of sequel to season 12. It takes place in a kind of the same universe as his, but not exact. That way our details can be a little different, and it doesn't matter. And I've got my shameless YouTube link plug. Yep, there it is. So if you click on that link there, you'll get to a very short YouTube video where you can take a look at a copy on Amazon. It's available on ebook and on paperback, and hopefully you'll enjoy it.
I just put that into the text chat for YouTube.
Yeah, so did I. And we'll once I get rid of this migraine, I will add both these fine gentlemen's channels to the description of this video or live stream. But I just you'll have to forgive me. I was a little behind the gun today, so I didn't get everything done as I normally do. But
you did really well, though, man.
I want to thank you both for joining us. Jeff, is there anything coming up? I know you have a Sunday show that you should be promoting, sir.
Yes. A Question of Trek. It's on Sundays at 4:30 Eastern Time. If you love Star Trek, if you like quiz shows, you want to be a contestant on the show, come on the show with us. Now, we have a special edition of this very show coming up this Sunday. It's our Christmas special, and we're going to have 2 special guests on. Birdo Prey 5 versus the Salty Trekker. So you want to tune in for that one, folks.
That's like Hulk Hogan versus Andre
and speaking of that is a perfect transition into this. So, with Doom looking down and probably throwing pitchforks at me, I am allowing
me too.
I am allowing a one-time non-historical fact to hit this channel. Doom was very steadfast that when we did this channel, it would be a serious channel. To the point where my What If series wasn't even allowed to come on here. So that's why it's over on Rambling Canuck. But for one time only, we are going to have on December the 27th. I'm right, Jeff? I'm not in a fever dream.
Yes, that
December
is correct. 27th. The 27th.
Yeah. Okay, December the 27th, we will have God Emperor Bird of Prey 5 and the President of Kurdistan, Salty Trekker, on History with R&R, telling the origin stories of both Karuga and Kurdistan as a nice little Christmas gag. So I hope everyone takes it in tongue-in-cheek that it is meant for. It will be fun, and how much we play it by the hip will depend on how well it goes. But it's going to be the one little tongue-in-cheek thing that we do, and it was a great idea. So
Jim can blame me. It was my idea.
Yeah, it was Jeff's idea. But, I allowed it, so, but, we're all good for a good laugh. And then I'm not going to give too many details, so this is a proper tease. In January, I'm not sure when, big things are coming to this channel. I have scored a very huge thing that is going to happen in January. And I am very excited, and I wish I could say more, but it's not in stone yet. So I'm not putting the cart before the horse.
Let's not
But
jinx it.
if all plans go well, there will be a very big live stream coming in January. And I'm very excited for it. And
Can't
it
wait
could
for
mean
it.
big things for this channel. It could mean new eyeballs. It could mean many things, and I'm still working on the details. But things are coming, and if everything works out, this is going to be big. But at any rate, I've kept everybody long enough, and I need to lay down before dialysis. So with that, thank you all. And as my friend Richard would say, thank you and good night and Merry Christmas, everyone.